Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. Get on with it, absolutely. God, I just think, this is a very, very important bill, and it just needs all the time and affair and love that it can. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. And before I start the speech today, can I please draw members' attention to my register of interests? I would like to thank the honourable member for Westminster North for everything she has said today, and to congratulate her for tenaciously taking this bill through committee and bringing it to the House today. Her bill is an important part of our work to raise awareness of this vital issue, that of standards in rented properties. I want to talk about rented houses and flats for both social and private, and the sort of unacceptable conditions that some tenants have to put up with. Many of you have already mentioned the minority of landlords who do not think that they need to comply with the law, and how their tenants suffer as a result. I'd also like to describe some of the new requirements we have helped brought in to help improve the lives of tenants and make sure rogue landlords are either driven out of the sector or forced to sort out their properties and their attitude. The Honourable Member's Bill is an extremely valuable part of this work. We had, I felt, a very productive, interesting and worthwhile debate at committee. I'm going to set out the other work we are going to do to help tenants, which includes some of the new requirements, but also make sure we sharpen the tools we already have. In England, privately rented houses and flats provide housing for 4.7 million households. That's 20% of all households. The social rented sector provides a further 17% and another 3.9 million households. The majority of these are safe and secure, warm and dry. People are tenants for all sorts of reasons. Maybe the flexibility is convenient for them, maybe it makes more financial sense, perhaps it means they can live in areas they want to. 84% of tenants in the private rented sector and 81% of social housing tenants have said they are satisfied with their accommodation. These tenants have already seen an improvement in the quality of houses and flats that they live in. In 2008, you would have found serious Category 1 health and safety hazards in around 30% of properties in the private rented sector and 15% in the social sector. By 2016, that number had fallen to 15% in the private rented and 6% of social properties. However, it is still not acceptable that there is this hardcore of this stubborn minority of landlords who rent out places that are not fit for their tenants to live in. Not all tenants have the luxury of choosing where to live, and some of the most vulnerable in society live in these unfit properties. It is precisely this minority of houses and flats that have still serious hazards that this bill will help to tackle. We've been working hard to improve housing conditions and tackle rogue landlords. For example, since 2015, landlords must install a smoke detector on every floor of their properties, and they must have carbon monoxide detectors where heating comes from solid fuels. And I congratulate my honourable friend from Walsall North for all the work that he's done on this issue. We also used the Housing and Planning Act 2016 to give local authorities tough new powers to tackle rogue landlords and poor property conditions in their areas. If landlords do not comply with legal notices served on them because their properties are not safe to live in, then local authorities can now impose civil penalties of up to £30,000. Bristol City Council, for example, have imposed 12 civil penalties, with the lowest at £628 and the highest at £25,800. Local authorities don't even have to take rogue landlords to court to give them this short, very sharp shock. And they can use the revenue to further fund these enforcement activities. This is hugely important with council finances. As well as this, if the tenants have had to live with a serious health and safety hazard in their house or flat, and the local authority had served a legal notice on their landlord, they may be able to reclaim up to 12 months' rent back. If the rent was paid through benefits, then the local authority can get this back too. Really serious offenders can have their names added to the new database for rogue landlords and property agents, and could be banned from being a landlord, possibly for life. In addition to these powers, we've extended the licensing of houses in multiple occupation. These properties are occupied by tenants who are not related, but who have shared facilities, such as bathrooms and kitchens. They are often good value and form a very useful part of the housing market for many tenants. However, they are higher risk. Landlords of larger HMOs, those on 3 floors or more with 5 or more tenants, require a licence issued by the local authority for each property. On the 1st of October this year, we extended this to include HMOs with 1 or 2 storeys and 5 or more tenants. We have also introduced requirements on minimum room sizes to help prevent some of the overcrowded situations and conditions that local authorities have reported to us. I'm pleased to say, actually, that this is the 3rd private members' bill introduced by honourable members opposite that this government have supported. These are the Honourable Member for Rhondda's Assaults on Emergency Workers Offences Act, which received royal assent in September. The Honourable Member for Croydon North's Mental Health Unit's Use of Force Bill, which is now in the other place. And now the Honourable Member's Bill builds on this work and adds a new dimension to the fight against rogue landlords. The bill empowers tenants by allowing them to seek redress from their landlords if their rented house or flat is in unacceptably dangerous condition. Landlords will have to keep their properties free from hazards from the outset for the entirety of the tenancy. Tenants will be able to seek redress without having to rely on their local authority, if they prefer to, and local authorities will still have the same strong enforcement powers to serve legal notices where they find serious health and safety hazards. No further obligations are put on those landlords who rent out safe, secure, warm and dry properties. If a landlord is quick to carry out repairs when they are reported, if they manage their properties well, if they take their responsibilities seriously, then the effect the bill will have on them will be levelling the playing field. Rogue landlords will have to improve their properties or leave the business. Landlords who do not maintain safe properties prevent an effective and competitive rental market where all landlords operate on equal footing. It is these 2 aspects of the bill, giving more power to tenants but putting no new obligations on good landlords, that allows it to sit so well with the range of initiatives we've already introduced. The bill gives power to tenants which will complement the existing powers and further enforcement options we have provided to local authorities. The good landlords have nothing to worry about because there are no new obligations or costs for these good landlords under the bill. At second reading, it was reassuring to hear such support and general agreement from across the House. It is testament to how seriously all parties take this issue. At committee in June, I once again heard cross-party support for the bill and agreement that we need to act now. Honourable members drew attention to issues in the private and social rented sector that concern them, and no one argued against the bill. Committee saw amendments that have further tightened the provisions of the bill and made it more effective. Now the common areas of rented properties will be included. This is important because properties with common areas like shared stairwells can be at higher risk from hazards such as fire, as we've heard today. So tenants need to be confident that they can hold their landlords to account when it comes to health and safety hazards in these common areas. This amendment will further help tenants in properties like the houses in multiple occupation, as I mentioned earlier. The bill extends tenants' rights for the first time, allows them to seek redress if their landlord rents them a property that is not fit for human habitation. It is vital that tenants understand their rights and know how to use them, as has been mentioned by a couple of members today. Subject to the bill receiving royal assent, we will produce guidance for tenants which will explain their rights and how to represent themselves in court should that prove necessary. We will also signpost where and how they can get any support they might need. This guidance will complement the how-to series of guides produced by my department, which have recently been revised and expanded. These guides include checklists for new and existing tenants, landlords and letting agents. Whatever the circumstance, we want to ensure that tenants are armed with information so they know their rights, responsibilities and can challenge poor behaviour. There is still more to do. Our support for the Honourable Member's Bill is an important part of our programme of work to drive up standards in rented houses and flats. And this support does not sit in isolation. We recognise the important role that landlords play in providing homes to millions of people around the country. We want to bring fairness to the market and promote good practice. It is key to the bill that landlords ensure their properties are fit for human habitation. Whether a house or flat is fit is determined by the presence of a series of hazards. These are set out in the Housing Health and Safety Rating System, the HHSRS, as it is so nattily known. The HHSRS focuses on the hazards that are most likely to be present in housing. Tackling these hazards makes homes healthier and safer to live in. As part of our ongoing work to improve standards, we are going to commission a review to ensure that the HHSRS continues to work well, and this will take place next year. Tenants are, of course, at the heart of this bill, and its intention is to empower tenants, which is our intention as a government. We've introduced legislation banning letting agents from making unfair and hidden charges, making it easier for tenants to find a property at a price they are willing to pay, and saving renters an estimated £240 million in the first year alone. In addition, we've announced plans to make client money protection mandatory for letting agents, and are going to introduce requirements on training and accreditation to ensure that tenants are protected. We will be further empowering tenants by requiring all landlords to belong to a mandatory redress scheme. The work the government has already done to improve conditions for tenants, as well as the work we are now doing and the Honourable Member's Bill, will mean a real improvement for tenants and a serious driving up of standards in both the social and rented sector. And can I thank the honourable members for East Ham, York Central, Streatham, Oldham, Western Royton, Hammersmith, Colchester, Walsall North, Torbay, Warrington South, Harborough, Reading East, West Aberdeenshire and Kildare, Kensington, Brentford and Isleworth and Great Grimsby for all their contributions today and taking the bill through committee, and all the hard work that across the whole House that this bill has seen. So to conclude, Madam Deputy Speaker, the government strongly supports this bill. I could go on if you'd like me to, dear boy. And it is clear that there is support across this House as well. The bill will empower tenants and help to further improve standards in rented houses and flats. It has been a pleasure working with the honourable member, and I'm sure her bill will get continued deserved support as it progresses.
The question is that the